Hello everyone, and welcome to your Pathway to Cybersecurity, an information session presented by IT Masters on behalf of Charles Sturt University. We're intending to demystify some of your options for getting into a terrifying and therefore exciting discipline. So thank you for joining us. Slide. All right, so my name is Guy Coward. I work as a student support officer for IT Masters, and essentially I'll be sharing with you what I've learned through hundreds of hours tailoring cybersecurity study plans for students, including credit assessments, subject selection, moral support, and course advice, whatever there is going, as well as what I've learned from quite popular free online short courses, which I'm sure a lot of you have come along to. I just want to make it clear from the outset that I'm not an IT expert, but I think I have a pretty decent handle on who wants to study our courses. I'm joined by the lovely and talented Hannah and Yeslam. Hannah is our chief short course producer these days and marketing officer, and chips in with admissions administration. She'll be looking after the chat for this webinar and is no doubt asking you to keep everyone in the loop in there right now. Yeslam is the Charles Sturt University Cybersecurity course director. He helped develop and now reviews arguably Australia's most focused postgraduate cybersecurity course. His experience ranges from the dozens of hours putting up with my annoying being a general thorn in his side to his Master of IT and PhD from Charles Sturt University, and there's a couple of his research interests there. Have a look at them there. There's some really interesting stuff. He focuses mostly on ICT ethics and social networking sites. We'll be hearing his thoughts a little bit later. Thanks, Rebecca. So just a brief rundown. We're aiming for this webinar to run for about half an hour with Q&A as long as you're all engaged after that. Really, I'm happy to stay all night. There are no obligations to stick around, but we hope you'll keep your interest, and we hope we'll keep your interest in that you have a couple of questions for the more interactive parts of the session. If you need to go, no worries. As you can see here, all registrants will receive the webinar recording, the slide deck, important contact details, and some optional further reading within 24 hours. We clearly use Zoom for our webinars and absolutely encourage the use of chat and Q&A during this session. In my experience, these informal channels augment the resources available, and I really hope your insights will add to the discussion. For all general comments, just post them in the chat box for everyone to listen to, and for any questions, or different perspectives and different thoughts based on your experience, I'd love those in the form of a question in the Q&A platform. For those who are new to IT Masters broadly, welcome. We partner exclusively with Charles Sturt University to collaboratively develop and deliver postgraduate IT and IT adjacent courses like management and project management. Thank you, Rebecca. All right, so I want to make the case for cybersecurity broadly today as its own reward. Talk about how academic institutions can help filling labour shortages and the benefits of studying with IT Masters and Charles Sturt University. So I just want to run through a few points about those three that taken together I think will validate what you either know or feel about how useful getting into cybersecurity would be. Then, armed with that confidence, we can look at a few common career pathways, as well as some of the next steps to take for pathways into study. I hope to convince you that formal study is not so much an obstacle to clear, but a support mechanism for getting you where you want to go. Thanks. So all of that will be based on a general theme of me hoping to change some perceptions, and not for everyone, but for some people, about getting a job in cybersecurity from being something that you've always wanted to do when circumstances permit to something that is a realistic and specific goal you're already working towards. And if there's three things I want you to take away from this session, it's probably these three here. First and clearly most important, I think, is that your existing strengths are far more important than what you think you lack. So many people believe that they need to have coding or whatever it is to get into cybersecurity, but the expansion and diversity of cybersecurity roles, the proliferation of jobs out there allows us to tailor your pathway to your strengths as you sort of build on them. And of course, there's no one way to start. You can you can get in anyway, and I hope to talk about some of those ways now. I'll leave this slide up while I test some assumptions I've made about who is attending. I've got a poll here, and so it's basically just trying to figure out who's here and how to get the most out of tonight's session. So which category most accurately describes you? You should be able to see that now. I work in IT and want to transition into a security role. I've always wanted to work in IT, and I might as well start now in security. I haven't always wanted to work in IT, but think security is a great career choice. I already work in IT security, and I'm here searching for nuggets of gold. No love for just loving an IT masters and turning up to all the free content. Oh, there we go. We've got one person there, and something not captured by the other options. We've got the overwhelming majority working in IT and wanting to transition into a security role. That's really handy. Or and there's a decent percentage of I've always wanted to work in IT and might as well start now. So I'll end that poll and share the results for you to have a look at. And that's pretty much what we thought. It maybe a little bit more than I thought, wanting to transition from an existing IT role into a security role, but still it'll be really useful for today. Thank you. Okay, slide. Excellent. So assumptions somewhat confirmed. Let's continue and begin with the case for, doing cybersecurity generally. You wouldn't be here if you weren't keen and aware of the advantages that a career in cybersecurity can provide, but I just want to codify the case to some extent. First, I want any education IT Masters provides to be its own reward, short course or paid course. And cybersecurity absolutely fits that criteria. I think it's a really interesting field just from any perspective, whether you like dreaming about technical possibilities, ruminate on the way IT influences business or political decision making, or just sort of seeing what you can learn and do as you develop. I hope you can see the intangible benefits engaging with cybersecurity allows. Second, we all know how much governments and businesses at all levels in Australia are worried about skills and labour shortages in cybersecurity. I think the important point here isn't the number of applicants, but the dearth of job-ready candidates. A lot of the articles that you read, about how many jobs we're short. We have enough people who want the jobs, it's just they're not ready. I think the sensible thing to do, of course, would be to resource organisations properly and build the skill sets as circumstances require, but we're a bit behind the 8 ball broadly, so we need to play catch up. IT Masters and CSU can help in that regard. Third, the risks are real and absolutely not going away anytime soon. I think the concept of malicious actors is a bit of a loaded one, but why these risks exist is a bit of a moot point. They're there. We need to deal with the horse that has already bolted before getting to fix the gate. And just on punk kids, my little section of risks, I recommend looking up a kid called Ruben Paul. He's terrifying and wholesome, and it just makes me quite uncertain about where we'll all end up. He's got all of this ability, and it's just a question of who gets in touch with him first, and so many people like him. But I'll leave you to make your own conclusions about that one, and all of those punk kids out there. Thank you, Rebecca. So, like being clear about what we're talking about, I think should help in developing clarity about what outcome you would like from engaging in cybersecurity. I think this definition is useful, with 2 comments added. Cybersecurity is the combination of people, policies, processes, and technologies employed by an enterprise to protect its cyber assets. Cybersecurity is optimized to levels that business leaders define, balancing the resources required with usability and manageability and the amount of risk offset. Subsets of cybersecurity include IT security, Internet of Things security, information security, and operations technology security. So the 2 points I want to make are that it's not just business leaders defining this now, if it ever was. It's every level of society. And I also want to say that as technological capabilities grow, the risk to all levels of society grows. I've seen a few sources that suggest Moore's law about, the doubling of transistors and the halving of cost can be applied to security. No idea if that's in any way useful, but in concrete terms, but I think it's useful as a way to conceptualize, the point I'm making. The risks are definitely expanding. Thanks. But, you know, the important question, I think, is what does that mean for you today? Basically, I think it just means landing a job in security is a safe bet for you know, career security. This table lists the roles available on Seek just a couple of days ago. There are lots of jobs out there in heaps of domains of IT, which represent some point on what I think is a continuum of cybersecurity activities and responsibilities. You know, every job in IT should be, in some respect, about cybersecurity. As this slide suggests, there are roles appropriate for all experience levels. But you know, it's 2020, the year of the COVID and the year of the golden rat. So there's lots of applicants out there. The task is ensuring that you're in the running and ensuring that people are ready to go once they've got the job. Thanks, Rebecca. And that means, for better or worse, real consideration of university qualifications. The screen grab on the right is I think, pretty emblematic of job requirements. It's a fairly advanced operational role that I found on Seek, but all but the entry-level roles require something similar. So the lesson is not that it is impossible to get gigs without a degree, but that in considering whether to make the jump in a new career direction, being realistic about what sort of sacrifices are possible is important. Most of the people I talk to aren't in a position to take a backward step to go forward long term, so we need to find workarounds. Again, here the points are fairly simple, but worth making explicit. If you aren't able to sacrifice time and money with an entry-level role, you'll need a degree to prevent your application being discarded without consideration. If you need a degree quickly, then it's better to do a grad cert than a bachelor degree, as you can complete it in 6 months. In my experience, the bachelor gives a broad foundation, which is useful, but time is definitely a consideration for career changes. And half the jobs out there will probably preference postgraduate studies anyway in their sorting processes. So which is best depends on your context and objectives. And you know, that's the important bit. So there's clear evidence of a return on investment in any case. So I think that's just a no-brainer, but we'll include some info on that in the follow-up email that we send tomorrow. Thank you. Now's a good time to bring the expert in. We've got Yeslam Al-Saggaf, the course director. Hello, Yeslam.
Hello, everyone. Good to be with you.
Yeah, well, it's been a real pleasure to work with Yeslam for the last few years. And I've just got a couple of questions for you, Yeslam. Can you please give attendees a brief overview of why we integrate academic subjects and applied industry subjects?
A good question. I'm glad you asked, Guy. As they say, great minds think alike. I remember I was a student more than 20 years ago, and 21 years to be exact. And I was sitting in the class, and Irfan, our head of school, he thought, you know, you don't have to do our subject. You could just get this certification and you'll be done with it. And at the same time, at that time, IT Master's CEO, Martin Hale, had the same idea. Let's benefit from both worlds, academia and the industry. So you have academics who are expert in the areas they teach, conduct research in those areas, and go to conferences that talk about those research areas with like-minded academics. And on the other hand, you have industry experts whose day-to-day job is those areas. They work and they know the technology and how it works. And so just fantastic to be able to share their experience rather than looking at notes like what academics do. That's the idea of combining the best of both worlds, Guy.
Thanks. Yeah, well, I think just one of the best features of the course as well is the extent to which it focuses on specialized IT security skills and theory, as opposed to, you know, subjects that aren't specifically about security. How, and I guess more importantly, why did you ensure that happened?
We have an advisory body. The most important thing for us is that the course is 100% cybersecurity. And of course, we also want to meet the fundamental knowledge in computing in general. So we have things that resonate with the ACS body of knowledge, the Sophia skills. And in that sense, we are capturing the theoretical component of the course. But at the same time, the course is needing to focus also on skill development. So this is where then the industry side comes in. The most important thing in that sense is that we focus on the most important industry certifications. So you notice that the course is split half academic and half industry. So those skills areas are captured by those subjects that are developed around those industry certifications.
Well, I think you did a good job anyway, so thank you. We'll hear more from Yeslam at the Q&A section. I'd love to hear some stories about your research and some of the subjects, if that's okay, later, Yeslam. Alrighty, so yeah, I suspect that the most valuable benefit of IT Masters being involved with CSU or Charles Sturt for students is the way we can take our understanding of these courses, the industry broadly, and with the right practices, your goals and objectives to tailor a sustainable study plan. I think adult education generally doesn't take advantage of opportunities enough to communicate the best option within each course for a particular student. It might sound a bit like a simple thing to do, but it really isn't. And I guess, my study with IT Masters, we pride ourselves on making sure it gets done. Thank you. So that's the major benefit, but certainly not the only one. This is a list of qualities that are, again, easy to say, we do this, and I expect all universities would say that they do. But I reckon it's actually very difficult to do these things well. I'll talk about these generally now, and then later we'll run through a few examples. Entry into a grad cert without a degree or industry background, whichever group of people you put yourself in during the poll earlier, you'll be eligible for entry into postgraduate study. If you don't have a bachelor's degree, if you do have any bachelor's degree, you can start with a master's, but if you don't, then you can start with a graduate certificate, which is simply the first 4 subjects of the master's, and a particularly good idea if you're looking at jumping in, like we're talking about here, starting something new or transitioning careers. Crucially, you don't actually need experience in security roles or even IT to enter. All universities at the moment are pretty desperate for students at the moment to cover the loss of international students. So don't worry about getting in. However, jamming people into a course without putting in place the support students need is just setting people up for failure and pretty irresponsible, I think. That's where our free short courses come in. They help build confidence, a resource library, and a foundation for success for people with limited relevant experience. It's also where processes ensuring we know where our students are at when they begin, helps us choose the right subjects at the right time for the outcome the student is seeking. We can set you up, with the overview subjects and perhaps some theoretical subjects to help you get the most out of the technical and practical subjects later. A non-technical background is absolutely not a handicap. In fact, I really value getting people from other contexts into our subjects. What those of you listening might lack in experience is outweighed by the different perspectives and insights you bring into the class, and the different applications that IT can have in different industries. And often you won't need to unlearn things. So if you can bring the time and passion, that'll be more than enough, I think. For those of you with a bit of IT or other professional experience, we can help you get recognition of your previous efforts with our credit program, and I'll talk a lot about that later. I won't talk too much about certification here, just because of who is listening, but I will say that when people ask whether certification or education is better, I think it's a false dichotomy. Anything you can do that builds skills, knowledge, and confidence would be viewed favorably by any employer. And if you are just starting out, it might be worth studying with mentors before paying for certifications and courses. If you go down the certification track, you'll probably get credit for it if you want to study. But if you just focus on one, I reckon you'll reach a ceiling pretty quickly, as the job ad a couple of slides ago suggests. It wanted a bachelor degree and it wanted some certification. Finally, for this slide, who knows what's around the corner these days? It's a crazy and sad time. I hope you're all okay. I'm glad you're with us. I want you to know that just because you might be able to do something now doesn't mean you can't, very quickly change how you study later. You can make a plan, but our flexible and understanding support team can help you change it if, for example, you get a job, or you lose a job, or you just simply want to study more or less for whatever reason. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so hopefully you're all raring to go now and have some awareness of some of the tools that we can help you with. I want to show you some examples now of how to either get job ready in 6 months, or get the new job and learn on the go, depending on where and how you want to enter the industry or transition to more security responsibilities if you already work in IT. Whoever you are, it's absolutely possible to have a finished graduate certificate in cybersecurity by February. So here's how. Thanks. Let's start with those of you with no experience. You can start a master's degree via the graduate certificate pathway. Be under no illusions, you will need to work to do a bit of catch up, but you can do that with our short courses library to ensure you hit the ground running. And you can see on the right in the graphic there, you've got the free short courses that will ease you into the special intake, which is coming up in a few weeks, the term 1, which I'll show you about later. That'll get you into the graduate certificate pathway, and then you can consolidate with a grad cert, or you can go straight into the masters, whatever works best for you. And we'll talk about that as you study. No point locking yourself into anything. Got to be flexible. Thanks, Becca. So many of these short courses are truncated versions of subjects we deliver in the paid courses. The platform is different, but the methodology is the same. All online delivery with webinars augmented by other resources. The short courses are grouped on the right here by the course they most closely match. Generally, I just simply say follow your interests and do the courses that seem most interesting to you, particularly for people with existing IT knowledge. For those with very limited IT knowledge, though, I really strongly recommend signing up for 3. I'm just going to put them in the chat now. I'll send you some links if I can do it on the fly. Oh, good, it worked. All right. Okay. So yeah, I really recommend starting with these 3. Computer network fundamentals and cybersecurity fundamentals are based on really excellent vendor-neutral certifications from CompTIA, Network Plus and Security Plus. And they'll prepare you either for your first subject that you should be doing in our courses, in the cybersecurity course, naturally enough, cybersecurity fundamentals, or for the very popular choices they are for people's first IT industry certifications. They should be available in the chat link, though, in the chat. Ooh, maybe not. Aha, I should set my chat to all panelists and attendees. God, practice what you preach, guy. There we go. Anyway, hope that helps. Of course, these aren't a prescription, just a suggestion. If you can demonstrate your knowledge already, choose your favorite courses, subjects, certifications, whatever you want to do. Thanks, Rebecca. As to whether to try for jobs immediately or wait until you do a grad cert, that depends a bit on what you need and want. You can absolutely apply for some of these more entry-level jobs, the first 4 listed there, and consolidate in a workplace as you learn. Hopefully get them to sponsor you for some industry certifications and earn credit, and who knows, maybe even get them to pay for subjects as you pass them. If the entry-level jobs will be too much of a sacrifice in the short term in terms of salary or whatever, and this goes for those in the IT existing career change people as well, then you can study in your current context in preparation for where you want and need to go, and change direction when it suits applying for jobs requiring more preparation. The basic structure would be the same though. Do the short courses that would most help if you want to. Target subjects in your course that fill the gaps in knowledge and skill you need to for your desired role, hopefully with a little bit of help from student support, and then execute the plan. It's hopefully fairly simple. Thanks. Then there are the turbochargers, and sorry, it's a terrible word, but anyway, for you lot, the world is your oyster. If you're in security already, I would just focus on maximizing credits towards a master and building the career. You can still set a goal of completing a grad cert in 6 months just to pad it out. And you can see, as I was talking about earlier, these are the, if you were to apply for term 1, you could do your first subject here and then go into session 3, finalize the last do another 2 subjects, get a short course credit, and you have yourself a grad cert by the end of February. Yeah, so you can see the term intakes, fundamental subjects in them. So they might not be appropriate for everyone listening, but you likely have a good chance of getting more credit if that applies to you. So yeah, for all of you, you can get 1 credit from completing 3 short courses. Just then enroll, and then do the last 2 subjects in the November session. It's a decent workload, but you can also do it slower if you wish, of course. As I said, it's about being flexible and making sure we do the right thing according to the goals. Thanks, Rebecca. So whichever pathway works for you, there's going to be good subjects or subjects that you should choose based on your current context. If you're sort of new to IT, then I would absolutely recommend doing subjects like information security, cybersecurity fundamentals, and then just that'll give you the really strong platform to build on. If you're already got a fair bit of knowledge, then it makes all then you can avoid the subjects that might be a bit basic or something that you already really know, and then you can focus on maybe working towards a specific cybersecurity role that you're interested in. If you want to be working cloud security, you can do architecting cloud solutions, cloud privacy and security, and cloud computing. Or if you want to look at subjects that'll help you do perhaps cybersecurity management certifications down the track, like the CISP or CISM, you can do subjects like professional system security here, or where's the CISM one? That's yeah, cybersecurity management, of course. Yeah, so those ones, like whatever the goal is, we can pair the subjects. The important thing is just to get in touch and make sure that you're having these conversations, so we can make sure that you don't get in your own way for either credit or doing subjects that aren't going to maximize the benefit of doing the course. Thanks, Rebecca. So there's plenty of avenues to credit for those of you who are looking at already working in IT. There's a very good chance, I think, that you would be able to get credit, and I'll give you a couple of examples now. So broadly, there's 4 ways. I say 4 ways to get credit: either for existing certifications, for recognition of your experience and we can do that through ACS. It's a relatively new development where they certify you as a professional at a certain level, and then we can sort of backwards engineer that and turn that into a credit for experience. It's very difficult to measure experience generally, so it's pretty useful that someone else has sort of codified it for us. As I mentioned, there's short course credit, and if you've already got some IT study, particularly at postgrad level, then you can very often get credit for that. That's just a credit assessment away, and I'll take you through some of the links to how to get that credit assessment done. Has anyone got any certifications they're interested in or already have? Just chuck it in the chat right now, and we'll have a look at whether there's any credits going around. But for example, so Leonard's gone CISP and CISM. CISM, if you complete CISM, then that means that you have subject ITE 533 cybersecurity management in the bag. You don't need to do it. CISP, on the other hand, we really rate just the amount of effort required to earn that certification. Makes sense that you get lots of credits for it. So there's 3 credits for that one. We'll talk more about certifications in the question and answer. So I'd be very happy to talk with everyone about where they're at and what subjects they might think about getting credit for. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so these are just some prompts to guide you in plotting your pathway and targeting the best opportunities for you. I reckon you should just ask yourself what your strengths are now and what you would like them to be in the future, particularly for those with perhaps not much IT background. There are no wrong answers or hard rules, just general principles that are worth keeping in mind. As it says here, we can help with these discussions, and in any case, this should help, I think, with formalizing a goal to work towards. For those of you already in the biz, target a specific area think about whether you want to be a cybersecurity manager or, you know, a high-flying consultant. Drill down what you want, and then we can find you the subjects that'll make it most likely that you get there. So yeah, I just invite you to reflect on that later. Thanks, Rebecca. So I guess, you know, what next? It depends on you, and depends where you're at. We'll have a Q&A session soon, so chuck any questions for Yeslam or me in there. I'd love to hear, you know, about where you are at on your cybersecurity journey, so to speak, and would happily give advice on pathways for anyone who wants it. And again, you know, if anyone has any certifications, I can tell you about credit too. But here are some options. Get the credit assessment. You know, you can just go to the Am I Eligible link. Check out all of our short courses. You know, there's a 20 or 30 of them there, and there's some really good content. Like I love them. I think they're fantastic. And yeah, absolutely reflect on which pathway suits you best. It's, you know, there's no point doing something that won't get you where you want to go. So come up with a clear goal, talk to us about it, and then we'll just go and do it. And finally, I should plug the next short course. It's called Detecting and Defending Against Cyber Threats. We're going to look at some really cool stuff, and we're going to get our hands dirty, and it's going to be really fun. It's going to be delivered by a mentor who does a subject called cyber warfare and terrorism, and it's just going to be great. So look out for the information on that one. Thank you, Rebecca. Alrighty, so I guess we'll bring Yeslam back in, and if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. I can see that there's quite a few of them. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for your attention for the last half hour or so. And now we'll sort of get into a more, I guess, discussion flow. So Michael asks, what would be better as a career path, Australian cyber, public or private sector? These are really difficult questions, and honestly, you know, it really depends on what you want. Broadly, you know, you can go with all of the truisms out there. The public sector perhaps has better security. There's really interesting jobs in private. In public, like you can work to defend, you know, people's information. You can work towards, you know, the Australian Signals Directorate, or work in, you know, offensive cybersecurity or defensive cybersecurity for, you know, the Defence Force. They're really exciting jobs, but often they're not as well paid as the private sector. So you'll find a lot of times that, you know, the people that get in these sort of government programs, you know, get all of the skills they could, you know, more skills than they could possibly hope to build, and then get headhunted by, you know, a big commercial enterprise. So the government jobs are frequently, you know, being turned over, you know, like crazy, because, you know, people just get offers that they can't refuse. And I think it's just, you know, a really attractive option. Maybe you could start with public and then go to private. Hope that helps, Michael. Sam asks, how do I break into cybersecurity? He's worked in IT support for sorry, telephone, I should turn that off. Oh, go away. All right. I work in IT support for 4 years in Melbourne, Australia. I've built labs for Certified Ethical Hacker and completed that course in my own time. Haven't done the exams. Well, you know, there's some, you know, an interesting case study. Do the certification exam for one thing, and then do some study. Honestly, like if you have reached a ceiling, you're going to need to do something, and there's going to be a lot of competition. So you're just going to need to invest the time, and it's just about which way would be best for you. It might be the case that you're really self-motivated, and then, you know, you could do the certification and tick that box there, and that's great. A lot of people really value the way that university study provides a deadline, and work to the deadlines, and it sort of just, you know, and work to the weekly webinars. They can provide the impetus that people need when maybe it's a little bit difficult to build the motivation for themselves. How to break into it? yeah, apart from upskilling and just applying and applying and applying, I don't know what else to tell you. If you're struggling to get to the interview stage, then you need to add something to the CV. If you're getting to the interview stage and still not getting the jobs, then there's a bunch of, I guess, soft skills that you could build, and there's a couple of subjects that we provide that do that. And there's also, we have, you know, short courses on mastering the interview and how to approach them. So just build the skills wherever you need them, really. That's all I can say, Sam. Michael again. I'm talking about red teams and blue teams. What kind of pathway would be good, and what kind of skills would you need to gain roles in red teams and blue teams? So yeah, one of the I guess the binary things that I had in that slide a couple of slides ago, you know, talked about whether you want to get technical and whether you want to get operational, or whether you want to, you know, maybe look at risk management and management broadly and setting the strategy. So I would focus on subjects that have skills focus. There's subjects like pen testing, hacking countermeasures, both of which are based on really good industry certifications, the GIAC pen testing and certified ethical hacker. So if you focus on those ones, then you can, you know, you cut your teeth on you know, doing some really good technical work, and then you can apply for jobs in operations down the track and say, well, I've got all of this experience in doing that. For people that are more interested and maybe have existing skill sets in management, you know, risk assessment, those types of compliance, you know, then it would be the opposite. If you're looking at those sorts of roles, then you do the subjects that are based more on, you know, building the skills around there and looking at particular frameworks in the IT industry. For example, COBIT or ITIL, CGIT, you know, these sorts of things. You know, there'd be the subjects that you would target first, particularly during the grad cert phase of your masters, if you like, and then you can, you know, just apply for jobs that are pegged to the subjects that you've done in your experience level. Debbie asks, is there guidance around which electives are the best match for each other to ensure you take 4 cohesive subjects and not a chunk of 4 less relevant subjects? Yes, absolutely. And that's basically the point of my whole spiel here. It's just, there's no one way to do it. We can help you do it. And I think that's where we really add value. And hopefully the answer to Michael's question before will have given you some kind of idea about how we would go about that. You know, just reflect on what you want, tell us what you want, and then we can do the rest, really. NASA's asked, what do you mean industry certification? Oh yeah, by the way, Yeslam, sorry, I'm totally hogging the mic here. Just jump in whenever you want.
No, Guy, please continue. I'm really enjoying your perspective on things, and also the students are wanting to have answers to too many questions, so please continue.
All right, well, I'd still like to hear from you later, so we'll keep going.
I'm here.
Okay, excellent. NASA's asking about what do I mean by industry certifications, and basically put, in addition to university qualifications, there are a bunch of certifications and accreditations that industry vendors provide that I guess are a way of showcasing your abilities and measuring your abilities. Employers use them to assess applicants and candidates for roles, and they're also quite often used as a sales mechanism for the vendors, for the industry certification providers. For example, you know, Microsoft or Cisco have loads of certifications that are based on their products, and if they get people trained up in their products and their services, then the likelihood is that when these people get jobs in, you know, in whatever organization they're in, they're probably going to recommend that you get Microsoft or Cisco hardware or software or products or whatever. So it's a pretty canny thing to do. They're really useful, and you know, like Amazon have them. Oh God, the list is miles long. But yeah, it's as usual. It's just tailoring the ones that you target to the goals that you have. Is there a course on security engineering that is designing security software? From Canva. Security software. There's certainly development subjects in the course. We're not so strong on programming because it's just one relatively small, I think, area of cybersecurity. So designing security software is not something we have a specific subject on, and it's not really something that certifications measure as far as I'm aware. It's more just a broad tool that you would use. If anyone knows any certifications on designing security software or a security software vendor who does a certification, chuck it in the chat. I'd love to talk about it. Millie asks, can a non-IT cope with the course understanding and get a job pretty much immediately? Yes, but you just have to be realistic about which job you're going for, and then think about whether it's the right idea for you at that point. If you're already working in a completely different field and have been for 20 years, chances are you're somewhere, towards the pointy end of management positions and those sorts of things. So there might be a sacrifice associated with the career change. And then it's just, honestly, it's a cost-benefit analysis. For you, I can't make that decision for anyone, but I would always hope that the outcome is do the thing that you really want to do, that you'd love to do. So you can get a job, but it might be an entry-level one. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just depends on what you want out of life. I'm hoping to retire very soon. I'm only 33 and have no money. So, but that's just my choice. Doesn't matter how old your degree is, Tina. No, it doesn't really. We tend to have a bit like if you're talking about credit. Once it gets a bit older than 10 years old, it might be difficult to find content that we can map across. But in terms of eligibility into the courses, absolutely doesn't matter. If you have any degree, you'll be able to go straight to the master's and skip the graduate certificates phase. But it doesn't really matter either way you do it. The grad cert's just the first 4 subjects. Adrian asks, what is available at CSU in comparison to QU2 and University of Queensland? Honestly, I don't do much research on what our competitors offer. It might be a good idea to talk to Yeslam about this one, actually. But broadly, the question is whether they incorporate all of the industry knowledge as well as we do, and can apply the knowledge that they have of the industry to your case.
Interestingly, I did Google most of the cybersecurity courses in Australia. I can't remember if the ones you mentioned are included, but I can tell you that the most important difference in the course of, in the case of the Master of Cybersecurity, is that focus on the industry, that split of the industry subject and working with industry experts who work in their day-to-day jobs, and also teach from experience and from expertise. I think that's what makes us unique.
Yeah, and really, like you can, the distinction between theory and application of the theory in an enterprise setting is, I think, the really important bit. We can talk about the theory as much as you like, but if we're talking about getting people that are job ready, does that set you up? Like, does discussing just the theory cut it? I would suggest not. It's combining the two and integrating the two into a cohesive course that is really, I think, where we can add value. Steve's already got a grad cert in information tech management. Can you jump in somewhere after this? Can you give me an example of what the subjects might look like? If that's with CSU, great. There'd almost certainly be credits mapped straight across. I'll need a little bit more context, but maybe we could talk about maybe your areas of expertise now. Yes, do you want to talk about IT ethics and one of the more, I guess, theoretical subjects that we run?
Yes, thanks, Guy. So I just saw a message also from Andrew Lee regarding the ethics subject. I think he must be referring to the Future Learn short course. I'm really surprised by that, Andrew. I mean, the perception about ethics in computing is that it's boring, it's dry, it's not relevant. But I was shocked when I saw more than 8,000 learners in the IT ethics course, and they have lived more than 8,500 comments in the course. I was really amazed. And yeah, so the ITC 506 subject is based on that course. And so the first 3 weeks of that course in the Future Learn are also included in the ITC 506 subject. And then the remaining focus mainly on specific ethical issues that are raised by the advancement in computing technology. But look, this subject is an elective. If you're really wanting to only do cybersecurity content, by all means, you don't have to do it. And it's not even a requirement by the ACS, because we have a bit of ethics in other subjects. For example, ITC 597, the forensic subject, covers a bit on an ethics. Other subject like 595 and ITI 581, a little bit on ethics as well. So, and I think the thing about the ethics is that you also work with mentors who are experiencing things like problems in the workplace that you could discuss with them. That even very valuable. So,
yeah, even the theoretical subjects have their applications in an enterprise setting, don't they? I'm putting up another poll now, which I should have done earlier, and I'm sorry, because these questions I'll just keep going until you all bugger off, really. What's your next step? Have a think about it. You know, I should have put a link to the application router. I really should have done that, but it's pretty simple to find. So yeah, if you're ready to go now, you can apply right now, and we can start you in the September intake, and that'll be really exciting. If you want to find out a bit more, you can submit an eligibility form and talk about what credit is available for you. Don't worry about getting in. We'll make sure you get in, and even if we think that you might struggle, we'll say start with some short courses and prove to us that you're keen, and that'll be good enough for us. If you're keen on assessing what we do, enroll in some short courses. It's less polished, but the philosophy is the same. So a really good way to start there. If anyone wants to have a chat about their context with one of the support staff, absolutely do it. It's so valuable, and we can ride the wave of emotion and confidence with you, and sort of find the solution that works best for you. It's really rewarding for me personally to do it, and I hope and I think that it's valuable for the people that do get an opportunity to chat. So if you've had a look, if you've ticked that one, we'll probably be able to find your phone number and we'll call you up. All right, and if anyone has any other ideas, just chuck it in the chat now, because something of the above options don't capture. There's 10 people that responded with that. So if you chuck it in the chat, we'll have a look later at the log, and we'll just make sure that we, if there's anything that we need to jump on, we will. So thanks to those of you who chucked an option in there. I'll share the results now just for fun. There you go. Lots enrolling in short courses. A lot of people planning on doing an eligibility assessment. So that's really good. Alrighty, back to Q&A. Do I have any thoughts on Year 10 subject selection for a student hoping for a future in cybersecurity? I have never had it before, Adrian, but thanks for the question. I would expect maths and science would be fantastic, and probably these days, like high schools do IT subjects, don't they? So, but they're not the only skills that you need. English is really relevant, because you need to, if you're doing a penetration test, for example, you need to be able to write the report at the end of it, and you need to be able to influence the people that are making the decisions. It's a really undervalued skill set. So if that's you, go for it. If you're keen on cybersecurity, the message is, whatever you want to do, you can do it. There's a role there for you. And there's so many applications, and there's so many industries to which cybersecurity principles apply that really we're only limited by our imagination. Subject selection, though, math, science, English, all the good ones. But as a high school dropout, not my strong point, sorry. Starting salary for entry-level jobs, great question. It depends on the entry-level job. If anyone is prepared to share, their help desk salary, I think it's probably around 45 to 65K. And then as you sort of build more skills, go up to, higher levels of help desk and maybe start working on network engineering or something, you sort of get up to, I guess, the median wage, the 70 to 80. And then once you get into management, it's ridiculous money. I had a look at some pen testing consultancy for salaries, and it's like 130K, IT manager, 130K. And that's where we talk about the return on investment for doing postgraduate study. Those jobs, the jobs that come out of postgraduate study are sort of the higher level ones. And you can just see it adds, 10, 20, 30K to the annual salary. And you sort of, over the course of a 25-year career, you're going to get 200 grand more, just in really, basic terms. Of course, it's not corrected for all of the other intangible things, like the sort of person that wants to do a cybersecurity degree might be more likely to look for a management role. But like, it's a basic message. It's a simple message. If you want it, you can get it. Roland's got 5 years as an IT help desk. What path can I take to get into cybersecurity? It's a really good pathway. And often I find that people, or my understanding is, because I'm just basing this on conversations I've had with literally hundreds of students. My understanding is that IT help desk people coming from that pathway gives you a really good understanding of and ability to deal with the people side of cybersecurity. So if we're talking about, people as one of the major vectors of risk in cybersecurity, you could be an educator, you could be, the person responsible for making sure that, everyone's complying with the rules, and you can be responsible for implementing the rules and changing what people do. I think that would be a really good pathway. And it also depends on what sort of help desk activities you're doing. If you're working on people's applications, because they've buggered up their password or something like that, then you could look at application security and making sure that those are all sorted out nicely. Halima, I have a background in privacy law and work as an IT design and development business analyst at the moment. Whew. Can you suggest a path for me to transit into cybersecurity? Start applying. Compliance, risk assessments, they sound like really useful ones for you. Maybe if you don't have much of a technical background, then you can be a conduit between the tech teams that will be implementing the strategy and executive management in large organizations who will be the ones making the decisions. Like they usually just don't know how to talk to each other, do they? You can be the person that facilitates those discussions. And I think that will be an area of growth in jobs in the future. Like, we all need to get better. Every organization, institution, whatever you want to call it, will need to have strategies and processes in place if they don't already. And those that are behind the 8 ball will need to find someone to do it for them. I think that would be a good pathway. Not knowing very much about your background, I can't be more specific, but get on the phone, have a chat. Let's do this. We'll find some good subjects for you and put together a plan. Jennifer Wakeling has a Masters of Management of Information Technology from CSU. How best to pursue this additional coursework? So this is a really good case for credit. If you've done 12 subjects with CSU, chances are there'll be a few where you can just get the subject straight into your Master of Cybersecurity, depending on the course structure that you chose at the time. If you did, some networking or sort of tech-focused subjects in that course, you should be able to just do it to get a couple of subjects credit straight away. Maybe if you're looking at transitioning really quickly into cybersecurity, getting a couple of credits in that one and getting a graduate certificate in cybersecurity with just a couple of subjects to top up knowledge and target specific areas would be a good idea. And then from there, with the knowledge that we have of your learning style and the subjects you've already done and where you want to go, we can look at getting towards the maximum of 50% credit across a master's. So I think that would be the way to go. And submitting an eligibility assessment application form would be the best way to do that. And you can do that with the link on the slides, Jennifer. Yeah, hopefully someone we'll be in touch with you once you do that really quickly. We generally have about a 1-day turnover for those sorts of things. You know, you submit the thing, we do the assessment, we give you a call. Stuart's asked a very important question. What is a realistic course load for someone working full-time and hoping not to burn out? Is February still a realistic timeframe for the grad cert? It's a very personal, you know, situation. It depends on your learning style and how much time you got, and you know what your kids are up to and how much of a punk kid they are. But I think it is realistic, this end of Feb finish time for the grad cert, particularly. Well, I'm including in there an assumption that you would be doing 3 short courses to, first of all, help prepare for some of the subjects you're looking at doing, because a lot of the short courses, you know, are associated with subjects that we run in the major courses. But also, you know, getting the credit from doing the 3 short courses. So if you get a credit, then you'll only have 3 subjects to do in the grad cert. You can start with the September intake and smash out as much as you can with that first subject, cybersecurity fundamentals, and then pick the best 2 subjects for you that are available in the November intake. There'll be a pretty heavy load before the first subject you do finishes, as there's a bit of a crossover there. But if you've got, you know, like 20 hours a week, then I think it's a realistic time frame. We say that 20 hours a week on average is, like, we say 10 hours per week per subject. So if, you know, there's so many different ways to do that. Some people like to chip away at it sort of an hour or 2 a night. Some people say, well, I'm just going to lock away a couple of days every week where I will do it. Sometimes, if people are lucky, their workplace will support them and give them time during their work week to do it. God, I hope that is you. Congratulations. If so, stay in that job for as long as you can. So it's realistic. It is a decent workload. And if it becomes too much, and if it looks like it's about to become too much, absolutely get on the phone and say, I'm struggling. You know, we can maybe work out, you know, solutions for, you know, giving you extensions on particular assessments, or we can say, hey, just drop the subject before the census date, before you're on the hook for the fees, and finish it in July, whatever. It's fine. Just the act of applying, I think, for the course means you should be able to put it on your CV, and just that, I think, is good enough in many cases to sort of get over that first hurdle in the sorting process. It's like, you can just put in, you can even put in technically studying a master's in cybersecurity, even if you just with the grad cert, you can just say in progress. I don't think that's inaccurate if the plan is to go ahead and complete the master's down the track, or you can just say enrolled at postgraduate level in cybersecurity, whatever works for you. But yeah, it's a really important question, making sure that it's sustainable, making sure that it works, you know, with the rest of the commitments that you no doubt have, and with the incredibly weird year that this is. It's a very personal question, and best for a long form discussion. Thanks, Stuart. Wow, we've got 30 questions, so the more I answer, the more I get. But that's okay. If you need to go, that's fine. This will be recorded. This is recorded, and you'll get the recording tomorrow. John's looking at doing a Cert 4. Okay, interesting. In cybersecurity in TAFE this year. It's a free government course. Would it be more advantageous to instead focus on a grad cert? It depends, of course. Cert 4s have really good technical outcomes, I think. They're really hands-on, and they can be very useful. They're not good for credit for postgraduate study, but they could set you up really well if you're looking at doing postgrad later. And it really depends on how confident you are in your ability to commit the time and effort needed to online study. It depends on your existing skill set a lot. If you've got, you know, a really good understanding about, you know, maybe networking in particular, you should be pretty fine with the grad cert. It's just a question of the risks associated with, you know, doing the course or any course of study, where you'd like to go and when you'd like to get there. So it might be a case, John, of maybe getting on the blower and having a chat about this. The other option is you can study both. depending on how many subjects you want to do, you could maybe enroll in both, do a couple of subjects that maybe seem well matched, and do it over a longer period of time than the 6 months I'm talking about, building, you know, the skills that you need when you need them. There's heaps of options, and again, it's just, you know, the more ideas that are out there, the better. Peter asks, currently still studying a Bachelor of Science, Computer Science, can still apply for the cybersecurity, or is it specific for the professionals? No, absolutely, you can study concurrently. But again, like John, the question is, you know, what's realistic? What works for you? You know, what you stand to gain, and why you need to gain it in a particular time frame. Ivana, which course or certification would you recommend for cybersecurity policy and compliance, risk management and operations? Ivana has a bachelor in IT and has been working as a business analyst, including for cybersecurity team for about 8 months. Okay, cybersecurity policy compliance. Ones that jump to mind, brushing up on the ISO 27001, I think it is. That's making sure that your, you know, organization or setting is complying with industry standards. If you've got some chops about you and pretty confident, then absolutely have a look at the CISP and CISM. They're really broad, overarching cybersecurity management certifications that require an investment of time and money to do, but are super valuable in terms of return on investment and just carrying the knowledge with you in everything else that you do after that. I'd probably say those two are the biggest ones. Then there's a bunch of certifications on just IT management frameworks broadly, like I can't remember it at the moment, CRISC perhaps, CGEIT. Yeah, honestly, they're all really good ones. And it's something that, you know, if you enroll in study, you can, you know, have access to all of these real industry experts as opposed to people that just talk to experts all the time like me. So, you know, they can give you, you know, tailored advice with a better understanding of where you are and what the certifications are about and what you can expect. Because I have a broad overview, but not really specific knowledge. Shital has a master in IT, currently working as a desktop engineer, now looking for a step up, especially in cybersecurity. I hope you've got a lot out of this, Shital. Yeah, I don't know what I can say that would add to what we've already discussed. Good luck, go for it. Find out, really define your goal. Make sure that, you know, it makes sense and is congruent with your existing skill set and the skills that you'd like to build, and then just apply, go for it. And, you know, that's the best guidance I can give you. Jeffrey Gosper, what is the typical study load and typical weekly study pattern? So yeah, as I was saying, 10 hours per week per subject, but, you know, there's not necessarily the case that you need to do it every day or every week. Some weeks you can study more, particularly when there's assessments coming up, or you can just get the process in place. And my beloved CEO overlord Chantel Hale is really good at study skills sessions, and we provide as much of those sort of student support, student skills sessions as we can. And there's awesome resources on the student portals about how best to approach these things, and, you know, tailor them to your study styles. Yes. But yeah, 10 hours per week per subject, and 14-week semesters, trimesters, and 3 trimesters per year, with the terms that you can sort of jump in with the entry-level subjects. Prashant, how to transition from sysadmin to cybersec? You know, I think we've, you know, I think for these questions, I'll just say same. I think I've already covered it. Programming language I would recommend for your courses. I don't have the technical capability to teach you those things, and it depends on the application. But Python gets thrown around a lot. Is IT competency necessary? Yes, it is. And if you don't have it, we can help you build it. but if you don't want it, then you're not going to get a job in cybersecurity. If I was to hire someone that applied for cybersecurity or IT, what would stand out in an application or resume? Putting in the work. Yeah. Having a realistic goal. Someone who's explored certifications, explored formal education, and has good soft skills. I think, hugely underrated. If you can get a good person and a good communicator, then you can teach the skills that you need on the job. And I think, a lot of the bloody problem is that, it's good for universities really, but, like having a degree shouldn't be a prerequisite. I think finding good people and having good programs in place where you can train people and build the skills that you need for your environment would be wonderful and would replace the need for us. But the reality is organizations aren't prepared to do it. So so that's where we come in. And if you can go out of your way to build the skills and the knowledge necessary, then I think that's really impressive. Other than that, I don't really know. I've not really had much hiring experience and aren't really looking for it. But getting the best certifications is a really good start. And there's all sorts of, positions and ideas about which ones are better, but really it's about choosing the ones that are best for the sorts of jobs that you want. If you've already got a master in cybersecurity, Faten, what can this course add? Well, cybersecurity is changing a lot. IT changes a lot all the time. So, I think, just having a master in cybersecurity is really useful. But there might be, a couple of little areas that you want to build your skills, fill some gaps in knowledge. If you want to, maybe if you're a consultant and you want to sort of provide different types of services, you might want to start going towards wireless or cloud security services. Then just do a couple of cloud security subjects, build your skills, get some credit from your first masters, and you can have another postgraduate qualification in one study session just by doing 2 subjects. I think that's absolutely a value add. Okay, Hardy has asked, given that the market is global, do you have guidelines available on the differences between local laws for each country and a definitive list of applicable international laws? I don't. Is that covered in any of the subjects? There is a subject called cyber law, I believe. Yeslam, is that right?
I think some of those things are covered in partly in some of the subject. I'm not sure which one, but the problem is that even laws within the same country are different, let alone laws across countries. But yeah, there are standards that cover the technology side of cybersecurity, and I think these are covered, not in great depth, but they are covered to some extent. Yes.
Yeah, and if there's a topic, or if subjects touch on these topics, you can assume that there'll be lengthy readings about them, and you can sort of focus on those readings, and from those resources, then sort of build a greater resource library. Look at the references that those articles use, and build your knowledge in that particular area. Maybe become an expert on sort of cross-cultural IT, environments, making sure they're secure, making sure that people are complying with laws at all kinds of levels. Good luck with it. Evan asks, are the courses run on set days or do they change? The subjects are set up so that the webinars run on the same day every week. And each subject will be, according to the lecturer's availability. The beauty of the online study, of course, is that all of the content and resources are online. The webinars are recorded and you can listen to them or listen to them again whenever you like. So if you can't make it to one's lecture, don't worry about it because the recording will be there. If you can't make it to all of them, if that's okay with you and you don't need that sort of classroom experience, which we try and replicate as much as possible. So, you can ask questions like this People in the subjects in the masters actually have their mics on as well, so they can, you know, have really in-depth, rigorous discussions. So they're really good. But yeah, all on the same day. Some jobs require a security clearance. Do you have any materials that can help students prepare for those? I don't, not offhand, but we can certainly look for some resources. I'm hoping to send a fairly, you know, useful email tomorrow, just with all of the resources that I've used in sort of putting together this presentation, and we can absolutely have a look at some advice on how to prepare for different kinds of clearances and certifications. Jeffrey asks, after an IT master subject is finished, do I get an industry certificate as well as a CSU transcript? No. So we get, of course, you get the CSU transcript and you get your award from Charles Sturt University, I should say. And a lot of the subjects talk very specifically about these certifications, but we aren't able to get you certified by the vendor. What they can do is, in some instances, depending on, you know, how experienced you are and how confident you are, they can replace the need for the training courses that are associated with them, and often where the major cost associated with getting a certification comes from. So like a lot of the exams are like $200-300 or whatever they are, but the training courses can be, you know, because they're 5-day training courses, and often when it's not a mad bad world, you know, they're in a physical location that you have to go to for 5 days and pay the rent and pay the trainers and all that sort of stuff. So it can help you in that respect. And it works the other way as well. If you've, so like our subjects are $3,350 at the moment, I believe, or maybe, yeah, I think. So you can, you know, depending on the certification, you might think, well, it's actually worth paying for the certification, and then coming to us and saying, well, I've got this certification, it's worth getting credit for now, isn't it? So those are the sorts of considerations you could and should throw around. So no, you don't get the certification, but you do get some really good grounding in whatever the exam will be talking about. Are all the subjects available to choose from at all the intake periods? Thanks, Joe. No, they're not. I mean, that's why it's, again, really important to have the chats with the support staff to make sure that the subjects that you want to do are really clear, and you know when they're on, and you can sort of make decisions with all of the information that you need to make sure that you don't have to wait for 6 months to do a subject that you want when you actually wanted to have your qualification finished. You can do as many subjects as you like. Fatin, how many courses in a week? Full-time study load is 4. If you want to do more than that, then we'll need to twist Yeslam's arm. But I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest, unless there's a very good reason. 4 is a huge load, and most of our students study 1 or 2 subjects per session. What time of day are the courses offered? Depends where you are. But generally we run them about 7 to 8 o'clock in the evening, Eastern Standard Time in Australia. And they're very much interactive, but recorded, so you can look at the recordings later. Are textbooks necessary? In many cases, yes. We don't provide textbooks, and often you can just access the library. They're all ebooks, so you don't necessarily have to pay for them. And honestly, just bootleg them. Prashant, how can I combine data science and, oh, this is a good one for you, Yeslam. How can I combine data science and cybersecurity?
Sure, I think
IT major in data science. Tell us about your 2020 paper, and tell us about the grad cert.
Yes, I think that's a good question. The two really can go together well. I was just listening to a talk recently on adversarial machine learning, and if you are able to make use of the data and, for example, conduct machine learning analysis on the data that will allow you to see the patterns of cyber attacks or the patterns of scams or things that will trick the machine learning classifier, I think that will be fantastic. That would be a good skill, because most of the cybersecurity stuff now are behavioral, and you need good skills in analytics and data science to be able to sift through those using machine learning algorithms. And I think that would be a good advantage to you.
Absolutely. And we also have a grad cert in applied data science. So if you're looking at combining those skill sets, really thoroughly, then it might be a good idea to, for example, do a graduate certificate in cybersecurity, not even worry about the master's, and do a graduate certificate in applied data science. I think that would be a really potent combination that would be hugely attractive to all sorts of employers, and a lot of fun in the meantime. Thanks, Yeslam. Adriano has a Bachelor of Science, Computer Science, starting to move towards security. What can I do? What are the requirements for a 6-month target? I'll go over that again, because if you're ready to go, let's do it. If you complete 3 of our short courses and enroll in the September intake and start with your first subject, and then do 2 subjects in your in the November intake, you can be done by March. That's the requirement. If you subject to other requirements for study, it's a very simple pathway. There's some very good subjects available in November, very practical ones, and there's also a couple of really good theoretical ones. So it's really, we can tailor it for whatever outcomes you want, and then you can just smash it out and go for it. I just think that's a really attractive proposition. I hope you all do too. Are there apprenticeship programs that I can apply for while I'm enrolled with the free programs and learn from the field? We're working on getting internships. It's a tough gig. Maybe it's probably a good idea to just start putting some feelers out with companies that you're interested in applying for, and say, hey, I'm willing to become bonded labor, so to speak. Get your foot in the door. That's always an option available. But then there's questions about putting yourself in situations where you might be exploited. I'm not particularly worried about apprenticeships in IT. If anyone has any information, chuck it in the chat. That'll be a really good one. We occasionally, Adriano, have scholarships, and they're generally submissions, where you sort of say, what am I going to get out of cybersecurity? Why do I want it? And we just give it to the people that are most passionate and in the best position to study. They come around every now and then, but I'm not too aware of any that are coming out now. It's a pretty difficult time for education providers, indeed for everyone. Scholarships is a sort of a lost lead, are a difficult thing at the moment. Oh, and this is a good one to finish with from CW. I hold, except another one came in. We might cut off questions after Canvas. So I'll go with Canvas first. I asked because my coworker is a cybersecurity analyst, and he had a threat data analyzing, and then I realized using a regression model, you could help him predict the attacks with a 40% degree of accuracy. That's really cool. That's the sort of stuff that Yeslam's looking at as well. Have a look at that research. It's pretty interesting. And finally, thank you so much for your patience. There's still 100 of you listening, which is a minor miracle as far as I'm concerned. I hold CISP, CISA, and CISM certifications. How many subjects out of 12 can be exempted? Just from those, 5. Straight off the bat. CISP is good for 3 subjects. IT security fundamentals. There's no point making you do that subject. And then IT or ITC 595, information security, which taught, the CISP talks a lot about. And then there's professional system security, which is really focusing on the common body of knowledge that the CISP is so renowned for. So you get subject credits for those 3 just from the CISP. CISA is a generic elective credit. So that's just, chucked in your electives. It's not tied to a specific subject, and there's a limit to how many of those you can get, but that would be fine in your case. And CISM is a really good certification. Some put it, sort of at the same level as CISP, but it doesn't give the same amount of credit because it's, not as onerous in terms of actually earning the certification, so fewer exams sort of thing. But that's a subject credit for cybersecurity management. And then if you were to do the short courses again, that would be another generic unspecified credit, you'd max out your 50% and you'd only need to do 6 subjects for a master's. So do it. It's really good. And it's really useful because if you have these certifications, you already have, great competencies. It's about, choosing the subjects that most excite you. You can fill the specific gaps in knowledge that you need for the job that you're targeting, or to improve your practices and processes in your existing job or business or whatever you're doing out there. So yeah, it's 10 to 9. I have waffled as usual, and I'm terribly sorry for that, but I'll shut up now. Thank you, Rebecca, for going through the slides. I had some technical issues and couldn't read my notes at the same time as going through the slides, so thank you for that. Thank you, Hannah. Is there anything that we need to cover off on from the chat? And if there is, let me know. And also just thank you so much, Yeslam, for your generosity, your time, your general sunny demeanor, and being a wonderful
It's a
course
pleasure.
director.
It's a pleasure, really a pleasure. Thank you so much for answering those very difficult questions. My gosh, really good.
Oh, I love it. It's absolutely the best part of my job. Thanks for the opportunity, Rebecca. I hope you've all got something out of it. And do please fill out an eligibility form, apply if you're keen. Do a short course. They're really worthwhile. Yeah, and together we can make the world a more secure place. And that can't be too bad, I think, can it? Thanks a lot. Have a good night. Take care. Be well.